Communication process. Communication is the process by which a person or group sends some type of information to another person or group. This definition highlights the three basic components of communication: the sender, the message, and the receiver. The common approach of project communication is a one-way process where the sender prepares and transmits a message to another person, the receiver. There is not much thought about understanding the process and its components, and no major need for feedback. The goal in this approach of communication is to send a message without knowing if the receiver understood the message or not. But the modern approach to communication makes it a two-way process. Understanding that communication is a process helps us identify the steps or elements of the process and ensure that we can use them effectively in our communications. Communication is a continuous process of exchanging verbal and nonverbal messages. The message must be conveyed through the appropriate channel to the recipient, and the message must be understood by the recipient in the same terms as intended by the sender. The sender, based on his or her area of expertise, will prepare and send a message choosing the adequate channel that the receiver will then understand from his or her own area of expertise. Effective communication is possible when the two parties, the sender and the receiver, have an overlapping field of experience and use a common channel. In this model, communication is a two-way process and is incomplete without a feedback from the receiver on how well the message is understood. In the model, a person, the sender, prepares the message and chooses the adequate channel or medium to send the message. The other person, the receiver, gets the message and, depending on his or her understanding, will reply with a feedback. The receiver will then act as a sender of the response message using the steps to encode the response and use the same channel to send the response. In this communication model, the sender also becomes a receiver when getting the feedback from the original message. In this communication model, noise occurs at various points that might distort or change the original intent of the message. Noise when encoding the message. Noise when using the channel to send the message. And noise when decoding the message. Noise in communication refers to the factors that influence the preparation, transmission, and interpretation of a message. This model of communication outlines a process model with the steps through which communication takes place between the sender and the receiver. This process starts with conceptualizing an idea or message by the sender and ends with the feedback from the receiver. The communication process consists of the following 6 steps: sender, encoding, channel or medium, decoding, receiver, feedback or response. An additional element of this model is the noise that disrupts the coding, transmission, and decoding of the message. The sender is the person or group that initiates the communication and is responsible for the success of the message. The sender will prepare the message by encoding it for the appropriate channel and what he or she believes about the receiver's knowledge and assumptions, along with what additional information he or she wants the receiver to have. Encoding means translating the information into a message that contains the ideas or concepts that the sender wants to express and that can be transmitted to the receiver. Experience, attitudes, knowledge, skill, perceptions, culture, they all influence the process of encoding the message. The sender chooses a channel or medium to transmit the message. This decision is based on what the sender believes about the receiver's preference for communications. The choice of the appropriate medium of communication is essential for making the message effective and correctly interpreted by the receiver. The choice of communication medium varies depending on the features of communication. For example, a written official document, email, phone calls, webinars, and presentations are some of the channels used in project communications. The person receiving the message will decode the message for meaning. The degree to which the receiver understands the message is dependent upon many factors such as experience, attitudes, knowledge, skills, perceptions, and even culture. Feedback is the return message from the receiver to the sender, a response to the message that can take any number of forms. Even a non-response can be interpreted as feedback. It's the feedback that enables the sender to know whether the message was received successfully or not. Without feedback, the sender cannot confirm that the receiver has interpreted the message as intended. Feedback also provides an opportunity for the sender to take corrective actions to clarify a message. It is an essential component of the communication process. Every step of the communication process can be affected by barriers or noise that can interfere with the message. Some categories of noise include semantic noise, which refers to when a speaker and a listener have different interpretations of the meanings of certain words. Syntactical noise refers when communications can be disrupted by mistakes in grammar, such as an abrupt change in verb tense during a sentence. Cultural noise, similar to semantic, it refers to the differences in cultures to create and interpret a message, such as our own biases, prejudices, and social norms can become barriers that distort the message in the communication process. Channel noise comes from the medium chosen to transmit the message. This includes technology and even language. Knowledge of the communication process can help leaders improve their communications and increase the level of common understanding. Understanding exists when all parties involved have a mutual agreement not only on the information but also the meaning of the information. Effective communication, therefore, occurs when the intended message and the interpreted message are one and the same.